Hey team, this dream was sent to me by Yuri, Yuri R, and we are going to just read it. Everything in this video is not financial investment or trading advice of any kind. Everything's just for entertainment, educational, and comedic purposes only. Bear in mind, I read crayons for breakfast. Please read between the lines per my YouTube disclosure. Never trade more than you can afford to lose. Please especially be aware of leverage trading during these high volatile times. I dreamt like I was in some kind of city somewhere. It was virtually vacant. I saw skateboarders zooming past me every now and again, and they would cross over tram tracks. And there were multiple tracks every 50 meters or so, and some of them were like a meter or so under the ground. At least it was the at least the last one was. So they had to have been good skaters to clear the tracks, but more so to be able to get back up to the 5 or so steps that the last one needed. Melody. Anyway, I started walking along the right side of the track where I was on my destination somewhere or exploring the city. Now, funny enough, I didn't know when this dream happened, whether it was before or during the dream. I think this was during the dream. Anyway, I felt like I was here at my current location in Dubai, and I opened my door to get in contact with the security guard here. It might have been the previous security guy, I think. And as I did, he just swept up a last bit of dust rubbish into the dustpan and stepped backwards into the elevator. So the pile was just in front and to the left of the elevator, so he didn't really have to get out of it. Anyway, I saw the door closing and quickly went into the elevator, which is only a few meters from my apartment physically, as well as during my dream. And as I pushed both up and down on the buttons, hoping that they would stop the elevator and open the door so I could speak to him, I felt like it did something to halt it, but didn't necessarily stop the elevator. But the moment I hit the buttons, everything around me started moving. And I saw like a camera footage of what was happening inside the elevator. And I also saw the footage, and it felt like an earthquake was going on. Okay, so which direction was the elevator going previously? Let me see. I saw the door closing and the elevator, which was only a few meters from the apartment physically during my dream. And I pushed both the up and down buttons. Interesting. Hoping that it would stop the elevator to open the door so I can speak with him. So it felt like it did something to halt it, but didn't necessarily stop the elevator. So it didn't stop it from going up and down. But the moment I hit the buttons, everything around me started moving, and I saw a camera footage of what was happening inside the elevator. And I also saw the footage of what it felt like was an earthquake was going on. And then I fell to the ground. I got up and hit the buttons again, and the exact same thing happened. The footage of seeing what was happening in the elevator, I lost it. The footage of seeing what was happening in the elevator, the people and him distressed, and it felt like I was in the elevator because I could see myself on the footage, and I felt like the earthquake again and me falling to the ground. Once that happened, I thought it must have been an earthquake. I then went outside through a door opposite the elevator, but it's not the outside of where I'm now. And as I went out, I was on the ground floor, and I saw at least one person that was shook up from what had just happened. In the distance, lower down, so I was looking down at him in the distance, and I was on the top of the flight of stairs. And then I went down a few steps and turned right again like a U-turn. And I believe that was when I was at the city, I think. Anyway, I walked along the right-hand side of the tram tracks that I first mentioned, and I ended up on the other side of the tracks. And walking back towards the way I came, there was a guy not far behind me that seemed to be following me a little, as though we had some kind of connection. As I got up further, it seemed like his wife came from the opposite direction and started talking to him in Creole, which is Mauritian, which is my background. Then I thought, oh, he is Mauritian. I sensed like their child. What is it?
Mauritian.
Mauritian. I, I then thought, oh, he is Mauritian. I sensed like their child, their son was there, but I didn't necessarily see him. As they were talking, I started back towards the direction we came from, and there was a Christian man, a leader, almost like an expert, a professor, and he started talking to us about his vision. There were quite a lot of people following this guy, 50 to 70 plus, I reckon. Okay, 50 plus people, I reckon. He then said something along the lines of, Luna is cooking, Luna is brewing. And we joined our church with that other congregation speaking of another congregation quite a distance away, as though the church and Luna were together. Interesting. He then continued talking and he said, I need to share. And he said, I'll ask my daughter if she can preach this message, whatever was on his heart. And she was also one of the ones following him in the crowd. She was up higher than me, a few meters higher, on another level of ground that had grass and row of seats, actually more like pews, like at the stadium sort of thing. He approached her and whispered to her, and I knew that she was separated from her husband. Anyway, he spoke to her, and then she said to the rest of us, no, she's currently separated and has unforgiveness towards her husband. So we all knew it wasn't appropriate for her to share. He then kept talking and my dream ended. Very, very interesting. Lots of information in this dream. All right, I'm going to share my thoughts and this will be with you guys. So I'll let you take it for what it is. I wish you were here at the moment. So thank you for sharing. But I'm just going to throw some of my thoughts on there, and would be more than welcome to get your own spin on this dream. But there's some things that just pick out to me about your dream. Okay. One of the things, and I look forward to having that conversation with you, but one of the things that I see in your dream, speaking about the elevators, is there's other people that are having dreams similar that God is going to allow them to push the buttons first and to experience the wealth transfer. But in the wealth transfer, as far as cryptocurrencies and the markets, Luna Classic, all this stuff, there's going to be moves that are going to happen both up and down. Now, personally, again, I believe that the markets are going to go up for a short time and then down. But there are some cryptos that are going to experience very low prices before they go higher. I believe a great glitch, some type of hack, is going to be coming to the markets. There's lots of intel, dreams, visions. I've seen my own dreams about these things that tell us that very soon there's going to be movement up and down. And because of this, we saw that God is going to help his people to capitalize on these movements, both up and down. For some people, you're going to be able to make money on the way up, make money on the way down, and then you're going to be making a lot of money on the way up. This is how God is going to put a lot of money in his people's hands. However, this up and down movement is going to shake a lot of people out of the markets. It's going to shake and bring about a lot of the wealth transfer. It's also going to cause a system, there should be some kind of system-wide failure of the algorithms that help stabilize these markets that have been really manipulating the markets by and far for a long time. This could be denoted by the hold on, let me mute somebody real quick. This could be denoted by the fact that we see a very large earthquake when you push the buttons. Okay, so the buttons that people are also pressing, the people who are riding the elevator, both up and down, they're in for a great shaking. In fact, you are not going to be spared as well. And this is the same type along the lines of everyone who had the flood dreams. But in the flood, even during the flood, some of you guys weren't panicked like everyone else. You were chopping those fish. You were riding the waves. You guys are doing a lot of stuff. But the flood is going to come upon the whole everywhere you see. It's going to affect everywhere. Okay, this is like the same dream I had last year when I was standing on my platform. Even I looked across this great crash, and there was the flood everywhere, water everywhere. So this is kind of how we see what's going to happen. So there's going to be a great shaking. No one's going to be spared this, but there are going to be some people that are going to be in position to capitalize on it, and some people are going to be watching as almost as it fits from a third person's perspective. So you were not in the elevator, but you saw yourself in the footage as if you were there. So the shaking wasn't as bad as when you were just in it, but you still had some connection to it. You were still a part of it, and you were not spared. However, like people who had the dreams before, they, as soon as they hit their sell buttons, then the markets were allowed to crash. So it's almost like God was sparing people by helping them get out just before the bad stuff happens, both up and down. You may be able to make sure you're hitting the right buttons, so to speak, before the great shakings, okay? Or as the shakings are happening, okay, you're still hitting buttons even during the shakings, but primarily you were spared because you tried to get in, and it would have been dangerous for you to be in the elevator during that earthquake, but God had spared you right at the last moment. You were following people thinking, this is where I should go, but you weren't allowed to go there. So God spared you, and I think that's really good. It also is kind of important to note that the man who got in was just accepting rubbish. He was just collecting rubbish, and then he got into the elevator. So you can see right there, and that's maybe symbolic where, there's a lot of people who are going to be spewing a whole lot of rubbish and then riding the elevator thinking everything's okay, and it's not. Okay, so I'm pointing that out as well. Okay. There's also kind of a notes here that I see that you try to stop the elevator thinking you can actually do something about it. You're not going to be able to stop what's coming. No one's able to stop what's coming. It's going to shake. It's going to affect everybody. Some of our orders may not even work when it's time. And that's also denoted by when you try to put the buttons in thinking you could stop what's happening, you won't be able to. So in some cases, you just are going to be able to respond to what's happening, and you are going to be at least be able to push those buttons and be safe. So there's things you can do. God has probably revealed to you about the great shakings that are coming and to be ready. That's, again, this is my take on the dream. You saw one person on the, so when it was all said and done and the dream was over, you found yourself on a completely new territory. This could be also responsible for your life. When all of this is done, you'll have experienced probably a good part of the wealth transfer and find yourself in new places that you would have never thought you would have been. You also found yourself much higher on the stairs, right? So you could be finding yourself in a much higher position in life. You came along later on in the dream. You found along the tracks. Okay, this is like the highways. There was somebody that you found that you had a connection with, who I believe they were also believers, and they were, as you started talking back towards the direction, from there was a Christian man, a leader. He was probably their expert, their leader, some kind of person who maybe you're following. This could be your somebody like in one of your communities that you follow, maybe your pastor. This seemed to me like you have like there were a lot of people following this guy, 50 to 70 people that you see following this guy. And then later on you saw that as you got up further, it seemed like his wife came from the opposite direction, started talking to him in Creole, which is my background. So the same connection that these people that you became friends with, they're following. So maybe that's how you found these leaders, or it could be representing physical. There could be some kind of physical Mauritian leader or his wife or something. I don't know what that background is, but it could be a specific person, or it could just represent somebody that looks like your family, or somebody that's you recognize as family. This could just be as simple as the family of Christ, the body of Christ, some type of leader. And it's very interesting that as he's ministering or he's talking, there were a lot of people. He said something along the lines of Luna. So he said that the church joined with the other church in that congregation, speaking of another congregation quite a distance away, as though the church and Luna were together. So And this sounds a lot like our group because sometimes people have called our group a little bit like we have a crypto church, which is really weird. But it's not so far from the truth, because since we've been founded, we talk about cryptocurrency, but then we also start going into the things of God. Not that the things of God are based anywhere in crypto, but in many times we've just put the Lord in the center of what we've been doing. So maybe this is referring to our group, maybe it's referring to a different group, or maybe it's referring to a blending of what God is doing with the wealth transfer and his people all together. So very possibly that you're seeing the same group of people who are involved in Luna in the wealth transfer, and also being the same people who are part of your church family, okay, are the people that you recognize as the Lord, and also as the Lord's flocks. Also, you see that the congregations are blending, so there's multiple flocks and multiple people who are involved in the whole Luna situation, which sounds just like real life. There's lots of, in the JSON communities, it's not just ours who is involved in the wealth transfer. Obviously, there's lots of people, right? All right, and then finally, there's one last big piece of information that I gather from this part of the dream, and that's that the minister's daughter. In this example, the minister has a certain family member, and I believe that God has revealed this to you just to point this out. Even though she's in position, and even though it's her right and authority, okay, because of who she is, being related to the pastor, and even though she was in line to minister, she was supposed to be the one to speak next. She's on the schedule. God has called her. She's birthed for this purpose, or birth, and this is by her right of birth. She's able to speak and minister to the church. In fact, she was called to. But the truth is, at the end of the day, it was not appropriate for her to share. Why? Because she's involved in some sins. Okay? And the sin was unforgiveness towards her husband. So this could be a revelation that there are people that may be ministering or close to ministering that are supposed to speak up. This could be some of you in my own community, some of you who are part of our team JSong, some people who are just part of the community in general, or other communities where God has placed in you some visions or dreams that maybe you're supposed to be sharing online or sharing on YouTube, or the information is supposed to get out there, or God is supposed to use you in a bigger and greater way, but because of the hidden sins, we may miss out on our opportunity to minister. Do you guys hear what I'm saying? It was important that God was sharing this with Yuri. Like, yeah, all this dream was having some great stuff, talking about Luna, talking about everything, but then at the very end, God wanted to point out something to him, that this daughter, his own daughter, was not ready, and this is also the daughter of God, was not ready to minister simply because there was some hidden unforgiveness. So I'm not saying this is a person, but if you feel like that's you, or you're a man too, it could be you, and God is putting on your heart to share some things, you may want to check your heart, because God may have used Yuri as a prophet, or to show this dream with prophetic connotations for his body, the body of Christ. That maybe we have to check our hearts so that we're in position, so when it's time to minister, we will be able to minister. Amen. All right, let's end this stream, and I will end this part, and we'll get back to our next stream privately. Okay, let's finish. Be right back.